And then there's this third one, the action or power of moving the intellect or emotions. I'm trying to do that right now. Is it working? A little bit? For you? I know, but you're up in front. You're like, yeah, I'm playing this whole thing to you. You like everything I'm saying. All right, good. Okay. Mental stimulation, influence, divine influence even, action, power to move the intellect and emotions. This word, inspiration, is incredibly powerful. The fact of the matter is that we human beings are both mighty and fragile. And inspiration seems to be a fantastic method of transport between the two. Inspiration, whatever it is transformative. It's a force that moves us from one state of being to an altogether more heightened one. And the cool thing about it is that the word inspire means elevate, lift up, enlighten. So inspiration can only be a force for good. Goodness. Being a purveyor of goodness seems like an awfully important and worthy thing to be. The fact is that for our health, for our well-being, human beings need to have purpose. Even if it isn't clear to us or we don't want to label it, on a vital level, I submit that there is a direct correlation between inspiration and purpose. It is therefore a relief that we all can and do draw inspiration from everywhere, or specifically from somewhere. I believe I know where. Inspiration springs.
We have over 1,000 volunteers just assisting with.
I give it up for volunteers. Volunteers are awesome. Volunteers make the world go round. This next point is something I just wrote over in Goofy's kitchen. My kids were eating, everything was happening, you know, Chip and Dale were thing, and Aladdin was talking to us, and I was like, on my computer, no, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. And this is the epiphany that I had in Goofy's kitchen. Inspiration springs from, it comes from deep inside ourselves, right? It's not out there. It's something that happens in us. When, to that one definition, inspiration happens on us, meaning some event, some accomplishment, something in the world inspires us, it can only do it if deep within ourselves we have the capacity to receive it. That means that we can participate with our whole hearts, self-satisfied, that it means something good for us, that we are even capable of being moved. We're open. We have wisdom. We have the grace to perceive the inspiration that is being given to us or happening on us. Among the many sources of inspiration are, of course, the beauty of the natural environment, the extraordinary behavior that human beings are capable of, the satisfaction of fitting into a snug pair of pants. I find that. I lost 40 pounds this year. I'm inspired every time I put on the 30 dues. I really am. And by the blink. Often we garner inspiration from curious and far-flung places. And now, rather than wait for any of these well springs to burst forth and shower us with manna from heaven, some of us know that we must seek it out, like a treasure hunt. So look at us here now, in this room. Aren't we all clever to come here to a running expo, a fun, informative, high-energy, brilliantly hosted expo? Aren't we wise to continue to arm ourselves with new and specific ammo, topping up our reserves with fresh inspiration? I want to inspire you. I want to add another color of emotion and mental whittling as you move along your journey. And on some level, you're clearly willing to explore just that. So that makes this very setting, a room within the running womb of this great hall, is in itself inspiration. Lastly, there's another intriguing piece of the definition that I haven't read yet that warrants a bit of thought. It goes like this. Inspiration is the act of drawing in, specifically the drawing of air into our lungs, physically, not just to uplift in the spirit, but to inspire also means physically to breathe deeply. Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. Inspiration is in fact the essence of life. We must fill our lungs to survive. If we fill our lungs completely, we thrive. The act of inspiration animates an accelerated and rapidly sustained fueling of our very lungs. Not the metaphor of lungs, but the actual organ itself. Think of it. You drive and you see a sunset. I always use a sunset. When you see a sunset, you go, wow, you just breathed in. The sunset gave you life. So what if, like the next time we're inspired, we sort of go, oh wait, I'm going to breathe in even more deeply because I know what just happened, and I'm going to hold it. And then if I need to, I'll reflect back on that. Pretty cool, eh? Let's see where I am. It's not easy to find inspiration. That's sometimes, always. It's not easy to retain it. It's not easy for us to fully appreciate when it happens. But when we say, man, that person's story, like Rudy, was a true inspiration, we're saying that our minds were edified. Our souls were nourished. But quite literally, we're also saying that we physically breathed in more deeply than the moment before we were inspired. Actually, it can kind of happen the other way. You kind of hold your breath for a minute. In the Olympics, with Kerry Strock, remember that? And you kind of hold your breath. Because you're in suspended animation, and then afterwards, the exaltation, it's breathing. One thing to take away from this moment is the understanding that seeking out new and extraordinary ways to become inspired is not just a passive thing that happens to us, it can be a conscious act. It's a gesture towards ensuring not only our survival, but optimizing our existence. So we owe, and this one kills me, we owe a major debt of gratitude to those things that inspire us. I'm thankful to countless people, to the splendor of the natural world, to people of all kinds, the ones who shape the world and the ones no one will ever hear about. To each and every example of the power of imagination and strength shown by even the smallest of creatures. A premature baby fighting for survival. A mighty athlete battling back from a crippling injury. The collective outpouring of love, support, and good deeds that always flow in response to tragedy. I'm constantly inspired by what happens when people are jarred from their normal routines in life, when they realize or are reminded that there is good in the world, when they decide that they have permission to extend themselves, to help others, to derive joy and pleasure in giving, in volunteering, in sharing their lives with others. So now that I'll sit back down again. Any questions, comments, thoughts, observations? Anyone? No? It's going to keep going now. Okay. Here we go. Now that I've gone deep and given some gravity to the proceedings, I'd like to unpeel the onion a little further. Would you believe me if I told you that the inspiration of running has directly to do with our mortality? That's right. When we see that sick child battle valiantly, we cheer not only for his renewed strength, we're thrilled with the human impulse to survive. When I run, when I throw my shoulders back and scan the broad horizon, when I draw in a massive cleansing breath in through my nose and pacing out through my mouth, I'm defying the odds once again. I'm not dead yet. Tackling the imposing hills of the San Francisco Marathon with an IT band thing felt a little like death. But then the ocean breeze from the mighty Pacific blew through me and I knew that I was very much alive. Life, what a gift. To have our eyes open and our senses heightened is a clarion call through the ages that says, yes, all of human history that has come before me has led up to this step, and this one, and this one. It may not be recorded in history books for posterity to study, but it is being recorded in the history of me. In the last stages of my life, I intend to reflect back, if I'm blessed enough, lucky enough, across the miles I've trod this year in Dubai, Japan, Vancouver, Georgia, Salt Lake City, Wisconsin, San Diego, Los Angeles, Florida, Virginia. That's all just this year. And the unifying activity, stitching together the fabric of my travels, has been running. My visits simply weren't complete until I had laced up and explored the local environment through the lens of a good run. I am constantly aware that each one of my steps contributes to my life narrative. While it may not be interesting to anyone else, or may, I don't know. Even my family, who I constantly browbeat into appreciating the magnitude of every four miler I do. They can only stomach so much. But I know. That's why I keep track of the miles. That number correlates on some level. It doesn't matter, but for me, it correlates to the validation of my existence. I'm worthy of meeting my maker sometime in the distant future because, ta-da, I've logged another 1,000 miles. I can picture being, I did this yesterday and people seem to like it. It's silly. I can picture being at the pearly gates and chit-chatting with St. Peter. Wow, Sean, that's amazing. I can never run more than a good couple miles. Well, that's okay, I'd say. All you gotta do is get a good pair of shoes and start slowly. Don't set unrealistic expectations of yourself, St. Peter, The heart gets turned up. Oh, sorry, I guess you got a lot going on here. Yeah, he'd say, well, head on in and help yourself. Wait a minute. I double back. You got any suggestions on like a good route to run in heaven? I suppose any route would be good in that event, but my point remains. Running is a celebration of life. When someone is inspired to run, or run further, or run with greater confidence, or run with purpose, I think that on some level, they're reminded that life is meant to be lived and loved and appreciated. So how do we run with purpose? Most of the people here have a friend, a family member, or a loved one who's in need of support. Financial support, moral support, the support that comes from knowing that others are just thinking about them. Most of us are not doctors, so helping with medical needs has its limits. Most of us are not dripping with tons of extra cash, so financial support usually has its limitations. And yet we often need to do something else. We want, desperately, to show that we care. We want to let them know that their life, their plight, is so important that we're committed to spreading the word about them. And what better way to do this than to deplete our body's energy stores completely? We wear t-shirts, we make signs, we cheer. The expenditure of effort is honest, and it's obvious for anyone to see. And we all know in this room that it feels great. Therefore, running becomes a precious gift that we give to ourselves and to others. If someone knows that at any given moment in a painful journey, we kept going because the thought of that effort meant something to us and to the people we care about, compassion, it's an exchange. We care about ourselves and others. They care about themselves and us. So running becomes this undeniable gesture. I know you were in pain for a while, says the sick person to the guy who ran for him. And you did that for me. Thank you. Thank you for caring enough to live and strive and endure the rigors of achievement with me in your heart. The fact that we're willing to take the time to experience exhaustion, it can be a present we wrap up in a sweating bow and extend to the world. And after each run, we know that no one can ever take it away. Running is itself inspiring. You want to run that next one? The run third clip? This is a clip about run third.